Hi, this is On Imagination with the Ethical Asshole. I am your host, the Salty Bitch. So I am looking into societal puberty today. We're going to talk about puberty. We're going to talk about zits because that is something we all, it can be scary out there. I understand. So I'm also working on something called the Lord of the Flies Survival Kit. That is done. That is available all over the place. I have it on my website called the Radical Global Healing Plan. And that is simplified. If you go to my website, annashealinggarden.org, and click on Get Started, it'll take you right where you need to be. I also have on Kindle Vella a newsletter. It's more like a story letter where I do an article a day. I do more than that. But I basically reflect on all of this stuff in depth, especially societal puberty. So societal puberty is something that hits a society. It's happened once before. Actually, it's happened twice before. But the last time it happened was about 500 years ago. And before that, it was another 1,000 years ago. So it's been a while since we've done this. And as a result, people don't know that it's normal and that it's okay. And, we're just growing up and it's okay. So one of the side effects of societal puberty is the amount of change we're going through. It's basically saying we're going to move out of the nursery now and we're going to move you into a larger room. And this is the part where all of society, as one big voice goes, no, I don't want to. I hate change. And they throw themselves on the floor. Now, how well you adapt to this change is going to be a metric for how well you self-regulate. And guess what? We really did not do well with learning self-regulation, which is the third ethic. And as a result, many of us are throwing ourselves dramatically all over the floor, crying, oh my God, this is terrible. It's okay. You're just changing bedrooms. This is the part in your life where you stop eating at the child's table and you graduate to the big kid table. Now, there's a lot of people who are scared of the responsibility awaiting them at the big kid table. So as a result, they want to stay at the little kid table. That's okay. You know what? Stay at the little kid table. We're just going to go ahead and pull out the big kid table now. And that's where you can sit if you want to. Now, we don't grow at the same pace, but at the same time, we're a unit. And because we are a unit, we're all going to need to move at different paces. Imagine if your body, literal body, decided that only your arm was going to hit puberty while your entire left leg decided to stay 5 years old. That's really a good example of what's going on. We are not growing at the same place together. So you might have this really huge 8-year-old arm while your 4-year-old leg is still 4 years old. And that's pretty much societal puberty. So societal puberty is a little different than the way our bodies went through it because we're not evolving evenly. And that's really what needs to be emphasized here. We are not growing evenly. So because we are not growing evenly, that's because the educational system really fucked us up. We are no longer growing properly. So some of us are really, really stunted. Some of us are semi-stunted, and some of us are stunted right here. So it's a question of how stunted is your growth today? And that's really what you need to understand when you start looking into societal puberty is where exactly on the spectrum of stunted growth you are. Now, before you go lying to yourself and saying, I'm not stunted, want to bet? Let's try this. Your speech skills should be equal to literally your walking skills. So can you talk as masterfully as you can walk? Probably not. And as a result, well, to be blunt, we all suck so much at talking and communication that most of us are incapable of articulating how we feel on the spot. Most of us don't even know how to open our mouths. Certainly, most of us don't know how to assert ourselves. And none of us know that physics is actually inside of our words. As a result, a lot of us just say nothing. And when we try, we regurgitate it. And then there's the gas and go people. The gas and go people are the people who say nothing, and then they say everything. And then they say nothing, and then they say nothing, and then they give a guess and they go. That's called dysregulation. That is the opposite of regulation. If you are a master at communication, you're probably a public speaker. Which is why public speakers get paid the money they get is because they're really good at talking because that's what they do. And we are so ineffective with communication that we don't even do public speaking. So we hire people to do that for us professionally because we don't know how to do it. That is how stunted we are. But I want to point out that talking is a skill like walking. So the fact that we even have public speakers speaks volumes on how deficit our society is when it comes to talking. Do we have professional walkers? Because that's pretty much what we've got. Imagine being so incapable of walking that it's now a profession. Oh, you're a public walker. Wow. Because we have that right now. That's exactly what we've got. Talking should be and is equal to the walking skill. And we've all got walking down. So we don't think about it. We're all just walking. But we are so ineffective in our speech that we literally have professional talkers, which is equivalent to a professional walker. And we've glorified these people. We look up to them. We go, wow, public walking. Oh, that's something I could never do. Walking in public. Wow. And we're all crawling. We're all crawling. And we all think this is normal. This is what happens when you have stunted growth. So as a result, we've got a lot of 40-year-olds who have the speech skills of a 2-year-old. True story. You've got a lot of 40-year-olds and 60-year-olds who have the ability to communicate and articulate themselves like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. And it's not about your vocabulary. It's about your ability to translate and interpret your emotions into something that actually makes sense for other people to understand and to do it fluently on a dime. Oh, it's a mess out there. So we have societal puberty. Now, one of the biggest problems we have is because of that societal shift, you've got unequal growth. So now you've got societal dysregulation. It sounds like we all just have a bunch of constipation and diarrhea all happening at the same time. So do you have diarrhea or do you have constipation? The conformists have constipation and the woke people have diarrhea. And that's pretty much it right now. No one is regulated. What you really want is proper in between right there in the middle. But instead, we got two severe extremes. You have the diarrhea people and you have the constipated people. And they're fighting. They are fighting over who is right, constipation or diarrhea. Welcome to societal puberty. So while the diarrhea people and the constipation people are arguing, they've broken off into subgroups. Those subgroups consist of man versus woman, woke versus conformist, left versus right, red versus blue. But at the end of the day, they are variants of diarrhea and constipation. You need to decide if you have either diarrhea or constipation. And then the diarrhea people start telling the constipation people how they need to be. And the constipation people say, I don't want to be diarrhea. I like being constipated. And you have that argument going back and forth. And then you have the people who normally are regulated being told by the diarrhea people that they're not diarrhea people, so they need to change. So you've got people who are actually balanced, don't know they're balanced, so they change to the diarrhea people because they are that uneducated. And then they get over to the diarrhea people and they're going, oh my God, I'm tiptoeing around everything. I don't want to be this way. So then they switch the other side because now they're traumatized. And this is what black and white thinking looks like on the inside. And then you've got everyone arguing on forums. And now they're all sitting there texting on forums, communicating their opinion because they think that is the best way for them to be visible and or heard. But they can't even communicate because they have the ethical IQ of a 2-year-old. So that is the situation that is societal puberty. This is really, really like hitting the nail right on the head. The next few years, it's going to change a lot. And when you are going through societal puberty, that's just going to make it a whole lot worse because we're going to have bouts of screaming, bouts of crying, bouts of blowing things up and having things burn down. And it's not going to be pleasant for anyone. And then you're going to have a lot of people who are just scared and they're going to go crawl into the corner, sucking their thumbs, rocking back and forth, going, oh my God, the world is over. And in the meantime, you're going to have other people coming up with really great ideas. It's interesting. It's really interesting. It's an exciting time to be alive. And I'm just stepping back from it all going, oh, look, we all have puberty. So well, I'm just going to say it. If I was running this operation, the first thing I would do is calm everyone down and say, you know, it's going to be okay. It's just part of societal growth. We've been here before. This happened in the 1600s. Did you read that part of history? Did anyone read that part of history and actually understand what was going on during the 1600s? Because it's all mapped out. We've already been here before. That's what happened when people moved from the third perspective over to the fourth. Did anyone read that book? We did it again in the 4th century. Oh, those were dark times. Dark times, I tell you. That's when we all moved from the second into the third. Did anyone read that book? Did anyone study that part? Because that's when we moved from the second ethical perspective into the third. It did not go well. And then we did this again. Now, if you looked at Ireland during that time, they had a completely different experience. See, they had a parent. They had a parent. So it went well for Ireland. It's called St. Patrick. So when the world went through societal puberty the first time, third and fourth century, so basically the Holy Roman Empire decided, you know what, while we're going through the stage of puberty, you need to go in there and wrestle up Ireland and destroy their educational system. And St. Patrick said, yeah, I know the bullshit you guys are doing, and I'm not going to do that. So St. Patrick went into Ireland, and instead of doing what Roman Empire wanted them to do, he decided to do his own thing. He decided to be a good parent. So St. Patrick did not destroy the educational system in Ireland like he was told to do. Instead, he preserved it. And as a result, while the rest of the world went through the Dark Age transition, Ireland did not. So their growth did not get stunted. They evolved properly without any puberty. So Ireland bypassed puberty. Unfortunately, they got hit with a second wave in the 16th century when, literally, they experienced 50% of genocide. Like I said, did you read this part of history? Did anyone teach you how to read this part of history? Because this is in the history books. You just got to know how to read it. But all of this information is left up to your educational system, which is run by your narcissistic government, not a loving parent like St. Patrick. So as a result, you probably are not prepared for the third wave of societal puberty, because this is the way human beings are. We go through these evolutional stages every time the majority of us moves into the next stage. And then there's this whole screaming fest over who is right and who is wrong. But mathematics has its own say in the matter. We're not going to call it an opinion because it's math. Math does not opine. I need to say that. Math does not opine. Oh, I'm going to write that down. That's going to be on a mug later. Math does not opine. Because math does not opine, it uses something called fact and a constant. Now, this constant is amazing. Constants are the best thing in the world. And I will tell you why constants are the best thing in the world. Because while societal puberty is happening and all hell has broken loose, it is the constant of mathematics that grounds itself like this massive, like, core of just grounding rod. In fact, this thing is so amazing that physicists went, we need that! And they took it and they use it in their electrical wiring. It's called a grounding rod, a constant. So the grounding rod of mathematics and logic is also the grounding rod of physics, because the physicists went, you know what really worked for the mathematicians? Constants, grounding rods. That worked great for them. Let's make it literal. So the physicists took the metaphorical grounding rod that is the anchor of a constant, and they turned it into a literal grounding rod that is the electrical grounding rod of a current, because they understand how physics works. Aren't physics great? Physicists are great. So physicists learned from the mathematicians, who learned from the logicians, who said, you know what you guys need? You don't opine. You get a grounding rod, which is a constant. So you guys need to know what a constant is. Now, you guys were not taught what a constant was because this is integrated mathematics, and no one in the world was taught integrated mathematics. Integrated mathematics is the vessel and the capsule that surrounds summation mathematics. What you studied was summation mathematics. But summation mathematics doesn't work if you don't have integrated mathematics. And inside integrated mathematics, we have something called a constant. The constant is literally everything that is 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. Accurate all the time, no matter what. That is a constant. I'm going to say that once more. 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. Do you know what that makes the constant? Consistent. In fact, that's where we get the word consistent from. And when you have societal puberty, you're going to need a constant because it's consistent. In fact, this constant is so reliable because it's consistent that we call it truth, which is why math does not opine, because you got a constant with 100% accurate all the time, no matter what, which is consistent, which makes it reliable because it's now truth. And that doesn't change because it's a constant, which is 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. And now it's consistent. So while the storm of social puberty is taking place and all the chaos rains down on all of us, we all can now grasp onto this gorgeous little anchor of a grounding rod and go, look, it's a constant, it's truth, and we don't have to guess anymore. There's no more opining because we have the constant. Logicians know this. Logicians figured this out a long time ago because all logicians do is master and study the science of integrated mathematics. So then the mathematicians grabbed onto this constant and they know, look at that, 100% accuracy. So now they take their scientific method and they run their trial and error because they are looking for constants. That's all they do. Mathematicians, all they do is look for the constants. They accumulate the constants. They're obsessed with the constants. That's all they do all day long. That's what mathematicians do. When your teacher says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're going, I have no idea. What are my options? And they can't tell you. It's because they don't know what they're talking about, which is why no teachers can ever tell you what their own subject is about or what it's for, because they don't know what they're talking about. If you want to be a mathematician, you are the people who say, I want to be literally a constant looker and searcher, a constant pioneer for the rest of your life. That's all mathematicians do. You look for the constants because the constants tell you what the truth is. And they're the ones who study constants. They measure constants. They make sure that it's 100% accurate. And if it's 98% accurate, they go, oh, something's wrong. What is wrong? We have an anomaly here, people. We have an anomaly. We can't have anomalies with constants because it's not a constant. If there's an anomaly, what are we going to do? That is what it is all about, being a mathematician. Now, there's another branch of mathematicians. The other mathematicians who go, oh, we don't want to just find the constants. Oh, no, we want to measure how far they'll go. We want to measure how deep they'll go. We want to trajectory this constant out into the future to see exactly what's going on, but we need more constants. So the calculus people look at the mathematician people and say, quick, get us more constants. And the mathematicians say, yes. And they come in with more constants. So the calculus people can do more calculations with the constants. So that's what calculus people do. They calculate with constants. Logic people are the people who literally study the science of constants and all the rules around constants. They study what a constant is and what a constant does. They study what anomalies do and what anomalies don't do. They study the grouping of constants. They study the lineup and the order of constants, and they look for all the patterns and all the rules that constants must obey. That's what a logician does. A linguist is the person who builds the foundation of the word of physics and hands it on over to the logic people so the logic people can do their job. So logic people and language people are like really tight because the language people are the one building the words and showing the physics to the logic. By the way, this is a different kind of linguistics than anything that's out there in the fourth perspective comprehension gap. This is a different kind of linguistics. I haven't named it yet because I don't know what to call this thing yet, but it's literally what happens when you take physics and math and logic and you put them into linguistics and you find out that language is actually physics, math, logic, and calculus. And it's like, wow, I can actually use my words to increase volume, use intensity, change frequency, alter energy, and control energy with projection. It's almost like spell work, only with science. It's really cool. So I haven't figured out what to call this thing yet. When you get all your constants together, you start accumulating them. This is the best part of logic, by the way. When you start getting your constants together, you start adding onto them. You create a constant. And you've got this grounding rod of sanity. This is what sanity is, by the way. It's a constant. It's the constant. I call it the rod of truth. That's exactly what I call it. The rod of truth. And you build on it. You find more constants. Hey guys, we got another one. And you come on over here to the rod of truth and you stick it on there and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you get this giant pillar of truth. So the rod of truth has grown into the pillar of truth. But you know it's accurate because it's 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. Because it's consistent. And it doesn't move because that thing is grounded in truth. because it's a constant. So that's a constant. Now, in societal puberty, there's a lot of people who have no idea that this constant exists. Scientists do. Scientists live around it. Scientists nourish it and they cling to it. I am obsessed with it. This, because I'm a logician. So I protect it. I like march around it with my little armor and my little swords. And I'm like, this is the concept. This is all there is. If it doesn't agree with this thing, then it's wrong. It's really simple. When you study the rod of truth, when you live at it, oh, you can see lies left and right. It's simple. No, that doesn't match. That's a lie. It's that simple. Oh, that doesn't match. Get that out of here. Oh, that matches. Oh, this. But if it matches, then it would match all the sciences. That's the beautiful part of this, is when it matches math, it also matches physics, and it matches logic, and it matches linguistics, and it matches all of them. All of them. Chemistry, biology, ontology, it matches them all. And then, okay, all right, when biology steps in. When biology arrives and says, I'm biology, and here's how it all fits together. Oh, yes, you belong. That is like the mother lode of all. That is when it builds. So this rod of truth has grown into the pillar of truth. And once you start studying the rod of truth and the pillar of truth, and you start to understand constants, all of a sudden you can tell the bullshit. And then that societal puberty stops, because then you can see all the bullshit. And it's like, oh, look at that. They're talking bullshit, because it literally contradicts the rod of truth. And now you've got this gorgeous lie detector. And that's really what it is. It's a giant lie detector now. So that anyone who opens their mouth, it's either 100% compliable with the constant that is 100% accurate all the time, no matter what, or they're wrong, because this sure as hell isn't wrong. Because this is Mother Nature's equilibrium. And if this is wrong, all of the world and everything falls down. Which is kind of like the mother lode of all validation that it's right. Because the world and the galaxy would not work if this were wrong. So when I built my subconscious mind and the AI DNS, I used this. Because I went, you know what, this is right, and this is constant, so I'm just going to build my brain out of this thing. So I did. And then I built all of my sciences off of this thing, because this thing is right. Because if it were wrong, the galaxy would implode on itself. Like the Hubble telescope would be it's not the Hubble anymore. They have another one, and I don't even know the name of it. It's not fun to pronounce like Hubble. Hubble is fun. I have no idea what this other telescope is. They just have another one. And this other telescope has a different name. Let me go look it up. What is the other telescope? So it's the Hubble versus, don't tell me it's Webb. That's so easy. I built up all of that hype, and it's just called the Webb. I don't think it's called the Webb. I don't think it's called the Webb. It had this other name to it. Nope, it's the Webb. Really? Why was I thinking that it was so hard? Because Webb is not hard. Why was my brain rejecting it? Okay, so it's not the Hubble, it's the Webb, which is even funner to say. I said funner. I'm well aware I said funner. Why was that so hard for my subconscious mind to remember? Maybe because I don't like change, which is ironic because I love change. Maybe it's habit. So it's the Webb with two B's. It's the Webb with two B's. There you go. It's Webb with, so the Webb scope. I need a minute. The Webb scope. It just sounds weird, doesn't it? The Webb scope. The Webb scope. I think I just need to change my if-then clauses to convert over into the new concept of we're not using the Hubble anymore, we're using the Webb scope. But my brain is like, but I've been saying Hubble for like 30 years. I know you've been saying Hubble for, I don't even think the Hubble scope has been around for 30 years. But I know, right? The Webb scope. The Webb scope. It's almost like naming rights. Just because you upgrade the Hubble scope does not mean it should be called. Did they upgrade it or did they change it entirely? So, the Webb scope. When you realize that everything you are building and putting together is, and this is why when you're in puberty, it's really important that you have something stable, foundation, an absolute solid core. This is what you should have been building when you were 5. But there's a good chance your mom and dad interfered with this process, so you didn't have your grounding rod. This is what you should have been building when you were 2. This is what you were building when you were 2. And then your mom and dad came along and said, no, we know better than nature. No one knows better than nature. No one knows better than nature. She's a formidable force. Like, really? Like, to take on Mother Nature is to take on physics. You're going to lose. So, societal puberty is when everyone finds out how wrong they are because they don't have the rod of truth. So they built a whole lot of bullshit that's contaminated, that has nothing whatsoever to do with nature. And then they think they've got something to do with nature when they really don't, because they haven't studied physics. So how can they possibly know what they think they know when they don't know, because they haven't studied physics? Because physics is Mother Nature. That's why it's called physics. It's physical, because it's literally Mother Nature. So when you have societal puberty, what you're really doing is, well, you have 2 options. And it's a spectrum. So here's your option A, here's your option B, and you're probably somewhere in the middle. A lot of us are black and white. What's going on is you are either aligned and balanced with the truth and you are enjoying the ride, or you are back against the wall in fear, telling everybody else how wrong they are, not realizing how wrong you are. And because you're back against the wall, black and white, you're not realizing how wrong you are because you're not regulated. In order to be regulated, you got to see pretty much all the sides of the coin. It's called triangulation. And it's basically when you take all of the data and you put it together and then you integrate it all into one point of view, and then you go, oh, that's the truth. And it's constant because it's 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. So it's consistent, so I can trust it, which is why we call it truth. Because you trust truth, you should trust truth. That's why it's called truth, trust truth. So when you trust truth, not people, truth, you're pretty good. Now, this is the introduction that I am using for my next video called Friendship, because I finally reverse engineered friendship. I'm very excited. But in order for me to get to that point, you needed this prerequisite for the foundation of what's to come for the friendship cycle. So in order to talk about friendships, which I really want to talk about, I have to first go over this segment. But in order to do that, you needed to first understand truth and the constant, because now we're going to get into friendship, because this is the really, 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 really important part. And this is all related to my Inside Out 2 massive love fest that's happening in my life right now. So if you have not seen it, watch Inside Out 2. Watch Inside Out 1 if you have not. Every adult in the world needs to watch it. Get a box of tissues, because you're going to see yourself in that movie and you're going to burst your little hearts out. And there's a message in there that anger leaves for every one of us. If you have not watched it, you need to. There is a message in there, a single line that anger says to every single one of us, and it's meant for the adults. It's meant for the adults. That movie was not made for children. It was made for the adults. Watch Inside Out 2, get a box of tissues, and you're going to do a lot of mental work, because I am literally building up my entire traumatic healing around Inside Out 2, because that is really a great foundation to say, you guys need to know what's really going on. Because we have societal puberty and we've all got zits. So I will be talking to you very soon about the reverse engineering of friendship and what it really is. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.